Okay, we have with us today some UU religious educators who are true veterans of bringing youth and youth groups to General Assembly or GA. And we're so grateful to have you with us to share your advice and your hard-earned wisdom. Thank you. Our first question, what the heck is GA? Why should we spend all this time and money to go? What are the arguments that you usually share with others as to why this experience is so valuable specifically for youth?
It's the largest gathering of Unitarian Universalists in the country and the largest gathering of youth.
I usually share that it's a place where youth can really center in on their own faith and cement their faith identity as Unitarian Universalists when they meet peers from all over the country. It's a very powerful experience.
And one of the biggest things I've found is the connection that it provides to our larger faith community. Often our youth feel so insulated, and maybe they know some youth from nearby congregations or from their district, but then to be at a national gathering and youth from all over the country who share their values is just one of the most incredible experiences for them and to get to witness as an adult.
It's wonderful. Are there youth leadership opportunities that can be had at GA? Any type of training or leadership roles?
Absolutely. I guess I'll speak up. I've had youth, several different youth from my youth group serve on GA Youth Caucus staff. There are tons of great opportunities. Jenica Davis Hockett at the Office of Youth and Young Adult Ministries publishes stuff all the time. And so there's opportunities for youth to serve in a variety of capacities actually on staff at GA, but also there's leadership opportunities that crop up while at GA, especially for youth who are part of luminary leaders. And they're often called upon if a little piece of a workshop needs a youth leader to help lead, they'll call upon youth who are luminary leaders in attendance at General Assembly for them to get to step into that role a little bit.
I also had a youth serve on the GA Youth Caucus staff for several years, and it was a really positive and educational experience. And there's also volunteer opportunities both for youth and after you bridge as young adults. I had a recently bridged youth serve as one of the media volunteers a couple of years ago. And like Jessica said, there's also opportunities to jump in and help with workshops or other spontaneous gatherings that occur throughout the week.
2 years ago in New Orleans, I had several youth volunteer, and some were volunteering in the media area, others were ushering. And it was a really good way, especially a lot of my youngers were ushering in the plenary, so they really got to see a whole nother side of it and being part of the democratic process. It was really fun for them, especially because they were too young to be delegates to our congregation, although we did have several delegates. It was really nice for them to get that opportunity to usher and see how things are done. Now they all want to go back.
Yeah, and I realized I also a number of years ago had a youth who served on one of the worship planning committees and helped plan one of the worships and did a chalice lighting in one of the large evening worships at General Assembly. So there's tons of opportunities.
Several of my youth were the chalice lighters and speakers at the Service of the Living Tradition last year, and that was a really cool honor for the four of them because they were bridging at that same GA, so that was a neat honor.
Oh, that's exciting. Several of you mentioned volunteering, and I just wanted to add that being a GA volunteer is a selective opportunity. The applications are, I believe, open March 1st and run till March 31st. So it's pretty early in the planning process. And those who are selected to be volunteers have their GA registration paid for by the UUA. To be selected for GA youth staff, that process happens very early, November 1st through around December 1st. And that is also a selective application process. And if you are selected to be on GA Youth staff, you have your entire ride to GA paid for by the UUA. That's registration, travel, lodging, and food stipend while you're there. So some of these opportunities can really be helpful in terms of financial management too for getting to GA.
I have to say, after last year with 2 years ago when I had a lot of youth volunteering, that one of the challenges of volunteering was the scheduling and making sure everybody was there in time for their shifts. So be aware of that if that's going to be one of the ways that you're going to be able to finance for some families to get them there, that you need to be aware that there's different schedule considerations with volunteering. It's definitely worth it.
Absolutely. And I would say consider the personality of your youth. I've had some youth who really loved it, and I had one youth who it was definitely not his cup of tea. And so, I mean, being upfront about the fact that the hours that they're volunteering is work. And for some, that'll be great, and it won't be for everybody. So there's lots of different avenues depending on the interests and temperament of your youth.
In my experience, it's been best for the youth that I've taken to GA to go the first time without having any specific volunteer or staff commitments, so they can experience it, take it all in, and have a lot of flexibility with how they spend their time, and then jump into volunteer and leadership roles the second or third time around.
I absolutely would agree with that.
Yeah, me too.
Now, what do you see as the value of going with a small group of youth as opposed to maybe everybody in the whole youth group?
One of the most significant advantages, particularly if it's your, either as an individual youth leader, your first time going to GA, or your youth group's first time, the supervisory responsibilities are lesser with a smaller group, and it gives you more time to explore the different components of GA and to process more individually with the youth participants what the experience was like and how it might be incorporated into your congregation's larger youth programming moving forward.
I would also say that even if you only have 1 or 2 youth who happen to be interested the first time, like gaining interest the first time, I found to be one of the hardest things, because you don't know what you don't know. And so for people who've never been, they don't get how great it is. And without someone sharing firsthand, especially a peer, it can be hard to get that buy-in. But if you've got 1 or 2 youth who are interested and willing to go, making the trip happen for them, when they come back, I had a youth who joined our youth group as a senior, and she had gone to GA the year before. And I'd been trying for a couple of years to get my group enthused about going, and just it hadn't been working. And she came in and started talking about her experience at GA and how incredible it was. And then suddenly the whole group was rallied up, and we took 6 youth to GA that following year. And so sometimes just having that 1 youth or 2 youth who go and get that experience, they come back, and suddenly what they share from a youth perspective means so much more than anything I could say or any of the other adults could say. So I highly recommend, even if you've just got that 1, put your energy into it.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what they've just said. That's so true. I mean, that's exactly what happened in our congregations. 1 youth went, got everybody excited, and then they all went.
Our experience is that once a youth group gets excited about GA, they bring that excitement and that knowledge about what GA is and why it's important to the rest of the congregation. So if you have a congregation who's reticent to get involved in the business of the national denomination, having your youth group go is a great motivator, because they come back and they talk about what they've seen and what they've done, and it's a great way to get everybody excited about it and involved. How have you found GA to change youth? What kind of valuable experiences do they have, and how does it change them?
There's a lot of ways that I've seen it impact the lives of individual youth, but 2 in particular, both the friendships and connections that are built between both youth in their peer group and those in other youth groups is really significant. And then individually, I've seen a tremendous growth in individual youth's UU identity from having this experience with such a large number of people.
I've had this happen a number of times with different youth. And sometimes it's youth who are cradle UUs, but we are in a fairly conservative area. The churches here are pretty small, 150 members or less. And so we have pretty small communities. And that was really their whole experience of Unitarian Universalism, maybe going to some district events, with 60 or 90 youth. But then being at GA and seeing thousands of Unitarian Universalists gathered in one city and meeting UU youth from all over the country. I've had youth by sometime in the middle of the week or at the end of the week, or maybe talking about it afterwards, turn to me and go, I think I might want to do this. I'm like, what do you mean? And I said, well, I mean, like ministry or chaplaincy or be a religious educator. I don't know, but I think maybe this is what I want to do with my life. And it's incredible. And, I've had that happen from youth who were cradle UUs to youth who were new to the youth group and new to Unitarian Universalism at 16 years old and came to GA and had their eyes opened. And, sometimes there's just youth who get really energized by a particular area, by the business of GA or by worship. I had a youth a couple of years ago who was so inspired by GA worships that she came back and started leading youth worships in our district, got on all of the worship planning teams, became a worship associate in our congregation, and really decided that she wanted to make Unitarian Universalism her priority for her activities because, like so many of our youth, she had so many. And after her experience at GA, she decided that this was going to be her priority for the following year.
Going to GA with a youth group requires so much support from a congregation. Parents, of course, we know are the gatekeepers as to whether their youth are going. There's a significant financial component, and not to mention fundraising. How do you get your congregation excited and on board and motivated to help send their youth group to GA?
I think one of the first things you have to do is you have to share the vision with them. You have to really build that this is something you want to do and show that the youth group's excited about that. You start that by meeting with the parents and having that conversation, and then you expand the conversation out to the whole congregation, because they have to get on board and get excited, because they are going to be part of the support network to help you get there. So that's really important, to take the time, and that foundation needs to be laid early.
I feel it's really significant to connect the youth experience at General Assembly to the individual congregation's mission and vision. Two of our end statements that are tied to our vision and mission at Elliott are nurturing leadership in all and developing Unitarian Universalist identity. And General Assembly and Youth Caucus are a great way to encourage and build and nurture both of those things.
And in terms of a tool, I found, Deborah, I hope it's still up on the website, there's a video about what do youth do at General Assembly that was put together by, excerpts from a few different GAs. And I have used that in my congregation. One of our biggest fundraising things, but also it ties in with awareness and sort of buy-in, it serves many purposes, is that we have one of our fourth Sundays, our congregation gives away the plate on our fourth Sunday every month. And so one of those, the one in February, goes to our youth group to support their trip to GA. And so we will use that video to share about GA, and we also have youth come up and give personal testimonials about what their experience at GA was and how meaningful it was to them. And that has had a huge impact on our congregation.
Okay. Thank you very much for that great information. You guys have such a wealth of information to share with us, especially the arguments for sending youth to GA.